Hello, my friends, and I have a smile on my face because I finally, after all week long, have some good news about my Moosie. Oh, I got home just a little while ago from the hospital. I was with him pretty much all day long. It's about 3:30, I think, now, and I hope to get this video out tonight. So I hope I don't talk too long, and I'm not going to edit anything. But after I put out that video, he had a rough time the last couple days. They say that the first week with the pain is terrible. And as you know, he did break his neck. I hate to even say that break word. Fracture, I like that better, but it's still the same. The two top bones in the neck, which are evidently the most dangerous of all. But they have him in a very tight collar now. They changed him into another one. And the neurosurgeon made the decision that they would not operate, that they did more CT scanning on him, and they felt that this immobilization would be fine. Now he has been in terrible pain, and they've worked. This has happened before with Moose when something like this happens, and they work with pain meds. It's either he goes into crazy things where he sees things on the ceiling, or it's not enough. And it's tough for some reason or other to regulate his pain meds, but eventually they get it right. And yesterday was a washout. He was zonked, and poor Colleen and Micah and Shannon and Brenda went to see him, and we couldn't wake him up. He was sleeping, he was snoring. Well, that was another problem, because all our married life, Moosie has had a bit of sleep apnea. But typical Moose, he did not ever want to wear a mask or do the sleep study or anything. The VA wanted to try that 20 years ago. He said, no, didn't want to do it. So what I have been doing most of my married life, not anymore, not for 20 years, I would give him the old elbow when I would count the minutes. And ladies, if you have husbands like that have some sleep apnea, you count the minute. Well, it's not minutes, it's seconds, but they're enough to finally, I say, okay, in 3 more seconds, I'm going to give him the elbow, which I've had to do. And then he wakes up and gets mad at me and whatever. But that happened yesterday, where he was in such a deep sleep from the meds that he was, what happens with sleep apnea. You stop breathing, and then you wake up and you snore, and then it goes on. Well, due to that, his oxygen level started to go down. I hate sitting in those rooms and watching all the stats on all the machines all around. You see all the bad things that are happening, the apnea, the AFib, you see all these things. But I watched that oxygen level go down. And unfortunately, it was while Micah and Colleen and the kids were there. So their visit was a wipeout. We took a picture, and he was lying there with his mouth wide open, sound asleep. So I do have one picture I will share with you too today. Micah came back with his oldest daughter, Colleen's oldest daughter as well, of course, Ryan, who is away at school, and came home because it's Shannon's birthday this weekend. But she came home particularly to see Moosie, because the morning that he woke up a couple of days ago at 7 and didn't know where he was, and started calling everybody at 7 in the morning, get down here, everybody, call Matt. He said, I want to see Ryan. I haven't seen her in a couple of months. That came out of nowhere of his head. So Ryan said, I'm going to see him. So she has 3 jobs. She's great. She has an apartment where she came home, and Micah and Ryan came down this morning to see him. And it was a wonderful visit, thank heavens. He was awake, and yesterday he never said a word. Today, you couldn't shut him up. Now, he's got that thing here on his chin that's hard, and his cheeks are all puffed out from this thing that goes up, this neck brace. And of course, he's lying. Now they do have him a little elevated too. But trying to talk, it's so hard to hear him talking like this. but you pretend you're hearing him. You get down there. Plus, he's hard of hearing. But he was gabbing away about all these wonderful things about Ryan. She was getting a big kick out of him, and they had a great visit. And the picture was great. He was kissing her hand, and I took a couple of pictures with Ryan. And Ryan is 21 now, and she's a senior in college and going into the writing and film industry. By the way, she's a very gifted writer, writing scripts and things, and that's what all her last year is all about too. So anyway, I'm so glad that was a wonderful visit. So I will put that picture on because he was smiling, and I didn't finish the part about the mask they had to put on him yesterday when this oxygen level. Then they sent for the oxygen guy, and he came down with this big machine, and they put a big clear mask on him with a big fat tube that went out to a machine and a tube in his mouth that pushes air into his lungs. And every time the air goes in, it's a breath. It makes him breathe, which stopped the apnea. And of course, right away, it brought his oxygen levels up. Well, he had that on, oh gosh, for hours till the afternoon. I waited until they finally took that off yesterday, and that was late afternoon. And now he just has a little bit of oxygen, that little thing in your nose, and he's breathing fine. Everything is fine. Slept well last night. And another is a funny story. He wouldn't let me talk at all today. He said, just sit down and listen. Okay, Moose, I'll do that. Well, you just have to go with him. And he said, I have a lot of funny stories I want to tell you. Well, he told a story about, and you don't know what to believe and what not to believe because maybe the pain meds are working a little. I'm putting some humor into my story about an update about Moosie because I want you to hear the good parts. And evidently, he said that Matt sent a bed. As you know, Matt has a DME business with his wife Cindy, and as well as normally he has another medical business. And he said Matt sent a bed to the hospital, this $800 bed. This is what he was telling me this morning, real early. And it's a bed, big blow-up bed. And what it is a very expensive bed. It's got the regulator on the end of it. And he said, and there were 10 people in here trying to put it together in the middle of the night and blah, blah, blah. Well, I can't imagine that Matt would send something to a hospital where they had all this. And I did find out this morning when I got to the hospital that Matt requested it, but Moosie got it a little confused. And it's one of those beds that blows up so that you don't get bed sores, and it adjusts to your body. It is an expensive bed, but it was the hospital's bed requested by Matthew to make Moosie more comfortable. So that was the story on that. Kindly got that straight. But I told you that all the children, the 6 children, have a text going where they're all on it, and they're all sharing every time each one of them visits what the updates are. And I told the story about Matt. Thank you, Matt. Thank you. And everybody was thanking Matt. Well, poor Matt's been so busy, but he manages to get there every day. And yesterday he snuck some peanut, what are those little peanut butter things in, which Moosie loves, the candy, those little peanut something or others. Every time Matt visits, he always sneaks something to Moosie, even when Moosie's here in Moosie's world. So I'm gabbing and gabbing away. Let me stop this clip, and then I'll continue for a while. Where was I? Well, so with that whole story, that was yesterday. And then last night, he told me all this story about Matt's bed arriving and everybody trying to put it together. And I got that straightened out this morning. But when I got there this morning, he was very gabby, and I actually fed him his breakfast. He wasn't complaining too much about pain. He kept saying, my broken back. Well, he got that confused. In fact, he called just a few minutes ago, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. Really good news. But he said, well, what about my broken back? I said, Moosie, you don't have a broken back. You have a fractured neck. I hate to say broken, but it is. Okay. That's because he has some radiating pain. But he still is a tiny bit loopy from the meds because obviously there is pain. It will get better a little bit every day, but he is so much better than yesterday when he had that mask on. When he woke up, by the way, and that was on, he tried to reach it off. He didn't know what was happening with this thing in his mouth, and how scary a thing this all is, isn't it? Poor guy. But so we had the nice visit today. I talked to the doctor. I talked to the neurosurgeon's PA last night. The pain each day will get better. It hasn't even been a week. It'll be a week on Monday about 2:00, and hopefully by then. But the good news, which has me so excited today, and these things every minute, it's either up or down or something. They've done a couple of chest x-rays, by the way, on him because of the, they thought maybe he had something. He has a regular cough all the time anyway because he has a form of COPD, besides all these other things. That's why the kids say he and Shamu have 9 lives. Moosie's been through a lot. And so they did a chest x-ray yesterday. They did another one this morning just to make sure. And when you're flat on your back like that, they worry. In fact, the doctor told me right now he's medically fine. But even before the pain, we're worried about getting them mobile. They worry about pneumonia and other things setting in unless they get you up. And he doesn't understand that since he has a broken back, I think he means neck, how they can do PT on him to when he has that. I said, no broken back, but your neck is totally immobilized. You can still start moving your legs and your feet and everything else, and that's what they're going to work on, Moose. So, this is a funny story. Thank God it's all funny stories today, and I hope they stay that way. We still have a rough road ahead with him, believe me. He's still, it's a tough road ahead. When I got there, he wanted to tell me all these funny stories. Now let me talk, he says, which he does all the time anyway. You think I'm the talker? You should hear him. And in those times, I'm not allowed to say a word. So he said, well, instead of, remember I told you, maybe I didn't, but 2 or 3 times a very nice PT fella would come in and try and move him, but Moosie would talk and talk, trying to stall him. That's one of his antics, by telling him about all the other PT guys he's had. And the poor guy trying, he has other appointments. And I said, Moose, no, quiet, let me talk, okay? And he'd tell him, start again. And I'd say, all he wants to do is evaluate you and see. Well, the poor guy walked out twice on him, and that was hard. And then he felt terrible. Right after that, yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, late in the afternoon, when he finally woke up a little bit, a priest from the local church came to give him communion, just a little piece, because all his food is pureed, by the way, everything. And that's another funny story. So we said a prayer together, Moosie and the priest and myself. We said a prayer, and after that, after he left, Moose said, I feel so awful about being awful to Tyler. He walked out. I said, you were not nice to him. You wouldn't let him do his job. And he said, get him back. I want to apologize. I think having said his prayer, he realizes what happened. But the fella had moved on, so he kept saying he wanted to apologize to him. He told the nurses that. Well, anyway, this morning, Tyler did not come back, evidently. This was early, before breakfast. And about 3 PT gals came in, and they were good old power of women. they said, we're moving you today. We're going to get you sitting in that chair. Oh, no, you're not. He said, and he gets like that, by the way. No, no way. I'm not. Too much pain. I have pain. So these gals, and he told me after it was all over and done with that day, boy, did they take over. They brought in a hydraulic lift. And somehow they transferred him to that. Now, I've seen them do that with him before in other episodes of things he's had when he's been in the hospital. That's quite a thing where they lift you up in the air with this hydraulic lift and then they bring you over and transfer you. Well, I guess he was screaming the whole time, don't do this, I can't do this. They just kept doing their job, these three women. And they got him sitting up in the hospital chair right next to his bed. And he said, once my, you know what, hit, and I sat down, I realized that these women managed to deal with me, and he came to his senses and get me in this chair. So he's telling me this story when I arrived about 9 o'clock this morning, right? Well, I fed him his breakfast this morning. So that was one of the funny stories he wanted to tell me. And by the way, he never shut up the whole time I was there until Ryan and Micah came. And then I sat back and let them take over with him. So things today are better, but some pretty funny stories that he's been going through. And I guess that's what these people have to do. They can't let you talk your way out of something or you're not going to get the job done. And he couldn't believe that these three women just said, you know, you can scream all you want, but we're going to get you in that chair. And the doctor told me that they had to get him out of bed. They just had to. Otherwise, he probably would have gone into pneumonia or stayed there for 3 weeks, knowing him. So that was a funny story. And I think, and then, by the way, while I was in the room there, I got a call from, I think it was the caseworker, and she had a lot of questions asking me about our little cottage here, what it was like, were there steps, how does he take care of himself, you know, can he shower alone, and, you know, I had all these no's that were no's, can he dress himself, and half, and telling her all about it, how far can he walk with the rollator, it's not too far, and I said, you know, this is a 100-year-old little cottage, I got a lot of stuff around. I think she knew, and I said, you know, the way he is now, I can't take care of him. I tried this once before where they brought a bed in, and this was after the hip thing. I knew I couldn't do that myself right now, and he needs the rehab. So they have this wonderful rehab center, talking too long here. They have a wonderful rehab center in the hospital on the first floor, which is also good. I've been using Moosie's walker, by the way, to walk, and it's been such a good decision to walk all the way from the parking lot in and just pushing that, knowing it's there. I can walk twice as fast as I normally walk. Plus, I'm always carrying a big bag of something, and I put it on the chair. So I'm talking so fast, I'm losing my train of thought. I'm sorry. You've probably left me by now anyway, as I'm telling so much. I'm so happy and excited. I hope you can share my joy at the moment. I hope it stays that way. Let me just think for a minute where I was. Anyway, I came home. I left there about 2:30, something like that today. And he was pretty fine. He was getting sleepy, but it had been a good day with his visit with Ryan and Micah, and I was there. Oh, I fed him. That was another funny story. His lunch arrived. And everything's pureed. And he said, let me look at the menu. So he looks at the menu. It says roast beef, mashed potatoes, broccoli, chocolate pudding, and applesauce. Oh, and lemonade. So he looks on the dish, and it's a big dish like this. And there's a big thing this big of, it looks like beans. It's brown, and it's totally pureed. That's the roast beef. Then he looks at the mashed potatoes, and that's all pureed. And then there's this other thing that's orange. And I said to myself, that's not broccoli. And he looked at that. He says, what is that? And he was still, you know, he's still a little fuzzy sometimes. That's not broccoli, because he hates broccoli. but I gave him some. I just, no, it's carrots, I think. Well, he thought it was, what's that other orange vegetable? Turnip. He thought it was turnip. So I had to feed him this. And finally, I put a little mashed potatoes in with this pureed beef and everything. He said, okay, that's enough of that. He ate maybe half of it. Get out the chocolate pudding, he said. So he wanted to hold the chocolate pudding, and each spoonful was about ready to spill over, but he did it himself. He wanted to do that himself. So we got through lunch. He loved the lemonade. He loved the milk. We saved the applesauce. So that was that. And then he told me some more funny stories. A respiratory guy came in to check his breathing and chest. I guess he had to be okayed on everything. And then after I came home, just about ready to start talking to you, I got a call from Joy, her name was. So appropriate for her news. And Joy was the caseworker. And she said, Mary Ellen, she said, I have just gotten approval for your husband to go down to the rehab center. That's what I started to tell you before when I lost my thought. They have a rehab center on the first floor that is absolutely wonderful. And it's all, you go there to rehabilitate after your hospital stay. So she said, we have a bed. St. Jude's also has a rehabilitation floor just like this. And you go and you're in a hospital room in a bed just like regular, but they give you PT 3 hours a day, intensive PT in the morning and I think twice in the afternoon. Now the skilled nursing places only do an hour, and if you don't want to do it, they'll say, well, okay, and you stay in the bed most of the time. I was so excited to hear that. And this caseworker's name was Joy. I said, oh, Joy, you brought me such joyous news. I was thrilled to hear that. We were so lucky that he was approved to go down there. Now the thing is, he has got to comply, because it's not forever and ever. It's like a 2 or 3 week thing. They get you rehabbed, walking, whatever you're able to do, and you're out. So he was sleeping and he didn't know this. She said, your husband doesn't know this. This was just an hour ago. I just heard this news. So evidently they can't keep you in the hospital if even though he has a broken neck now, that's all taken care of. They've been treating that. They're treating the pain to get it right, adjusting it, but he's medically fine. There's nothing else wrong. And as the doctor said, we don't keep you here in the hospital if you're not medically, at least on that floor, if everything's okay, which he says it is with him. His chest is fine. He's coughing, but he coughs all the time anyway. They just want him to keep coughing. So that's why they got him downstairs. And Matt said, you got to start that process. Keep telling them you can't take care of them at home yet, that you got to do this first. And I did, just like Matt said. He's the aggressive one with the doctors and nurses getting the right things done. He's the advocate, I guess you'd say. I am too, to a certain extent, but he knows so much more than I do. So that's where he's going tonight after supper. And just when I was ready to push the button to record, he calls. How can I go to rehab with a broken back? I said, Moose, your back's now broken. You have a broken neck. It's fine. They got that on. I had to explain to him that everything was fine. He knows all they've done now is this hydraulic lift to get him sitting in a chair. They're going to go slow with him, but he'll probably have about 2, maybe 3 weeks at most there. And they'll have to get him to the point, hopefully, to come home to be able to move those legs and walk. Thank God the rest of his body's fine. I think he understands that. He knows he has to work hard. He said, after his prayer, he said, I'm going to make my commitment to myself. So I hope he does it. I don't know why you stuck with me for so long, if you have, but I should have said this in the beginning. When I read, you do know we have about 1,000, it might be more than 1,000 of your beautiful, wonderful personal prayers and thoughts and comments all about Moosie. I read every single one. I read them at night. I read them whenever I get a chance. If he's sleeping and I'm sitting next to him in the hospital. I read them. I've read him, several of them. I've read some of the children. I've read some of these to the children. You have sent me the most beautiful prayers, and I can't tell you how I appreciate it. Now, just because I haven't commented, I haven't had a chance, and I'm so sorry, but I have read and will continue to read every single comment. And I even had, until this morning, I had wash in my washing machine. Couldn't even get it in the dryer with all this happening for 3 days before this morning I finally transferred it to the dryer. That's how it is. Colleen said they were going to send the kids down to, pretty soon too. The caseworkers are going to come down and inspect my cottage. So I have a little work to do here before that. So your prayers worked. He has a lot of healing to do. He is all banged up. Black eye and his arms, the blood spreading on the inside because of the Eliquis, and his head is still bandaged. And so you wouldn't have wanted to see those pictures of him. But the one with Ryan, he looked so cute, looking up at her, smiling. He was so happy to see her, holding her hand, kissing her hand. Keep those prayers coming, please, that he is able to do what they want him to do in that rehabilitation center, still in the same hospital. So that's wonderful for me, because it only takes me, maybe 15 minutes to drive there. And I'm so thankful for that, because that's about all I could do at this point. I still have to take care of myself. Today on my way home, I stopped and I got myself a lemonade at Polo Loco. And I did get a big one of those tostada salads, with the tostada on the outside. It was all filled with chicken and greens and avocado, and so it's healthy too. I had a bowl of cottage cheese this morning with some blueberries before I left, because I know I have to get my protein. I know I have to keep my own health up, and I'm getting lots of exercise walking, but I'm using the walker. I'm not leaning on it. I'm just pushing it, and so far so good with me. So thank you for all your prayers, all your comments. I love you all. I had no idea that many of you actually thought of us with love and caring. And I feel the same way. After 4 years, what is it, a little more than 4 years, we do feel like we know each other, that we're friends. You know so much about me, and you've told me so much about yourself. And I'm grateful for that. I really am. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Right now it's good news. Keep praying for good news. And I'll hope to give you updates, the bad ones and the good ones. I hope I'm not sharing too much. I hope the kids won't get mad at me or Moosie for sharing too much. I tend to do that, but you're my friends. I love you so much. God bless you. God bless my Moosie. Every one of you. God bless me, us all, everybody in the world. And thank you for our blessings, dear Lord. Once again, you have blessed us. Goodbye for now. And yes, God bless us all.